All channels are free and all doors fly open for my immediate and endless, divinely designed supply. My ships come in over a calm sea under grace and perfect ways. I give thanks that the millions which are mine by divine right now pour in and pile up under grace in perfect ways. Unexpected doors fly open, unexpected channels are free, and endless avalanches of abundance are poured out unto me under grace in perfect ways. I spend money under direct inspiration, wisely, fearlessly, knowing my supply is endless and immediate. I am fearless in letting money go, knowing God is my immediate and endless supply. And so it is. Hello and welcome to the Millionaires of the Bible series call on this Sunday morning. My name is Issachar Bey, and I am the Senior Director of the Temple of Enlightenment International Spiritual Center. I want to thank you for tuning into this call this morning. I'm excited about what we're getting ready to unfold today as we move into a new dimension and to a new level, as we elevate our levels of consciousness and move into this next level of our journey as we continue to move and operate in our millionaire consciousness. I want you to say this with me. I am a millionaire. I am a millionaire. I am a millionaire. It's something that sounds so wonderful about that, how that this rings out when you speak that word, I am a millionaire. We understand and we know that what you add I am to, you become that which you add to I am. And so we understand the power of I am, and we understand that millionaire means the abundance along with happiness. And so when we understand that the millionaire consciousness is about not about the physical ramifications of possessions of what we can physically get or what we think of as a physical manifestation, but what we understand and begin to take into on a spiritual and a mental level. I was having a conversation with somebody last week, and we were discussing, I watch CNBC, MSNBC a lot because I like to find out what's going on in the market with these companies, CEOs, mergers, all different kind of things in the financial sector. And so we were talking about some of the billionaires and millionaires, and we were saying that, it seems like this. People who don't have money try to look like they have money, and people who have the money don't look like they got the money. Isn't that crazy? When you begin to look at it, the people that don't have money try to look like they have money. But it's the people that have the money that don't look like they have money. You see a billionaire, he come out with some khaki pants on, some, New Balance tennis shoes, and a T-shirt, and he don't look like he's a billionaire because in our minds, we automatically assuming or accumulating what a billionaire looks like. But here is somebody who don't have money. They're walking around with the Gucci shoes, the Gucci belt, the Gucci hat, and so we think that they are the example of what money is. And so we have to be very conscious on how we look at this, because when we start looking at and getting a millionaire consciousness, we have to realize that money does not show off. The people that really got the money don't show it off. You wouldn't even know if a billionaire walked past you down the street, you wouldn't even know who he was or who she was, because she didn't look like it in our eyes on the physical ramification of what money is supposed to look like. And so when we walk in our millionaire consciousness, it's not about the physical ramifications of what we're walking into, but what it is about our spiritual understanding. And I'm glad that we're talking about that, because today there's some profound truths that we're going to be able to unpack as we look at this next dimension that we are going into. We are going into the chapter 5, the 5th chapter, how to claim your prosperous Jericho. I begin to look at this. Our text will be coming out of Joshua, the 6th chapter, verses 1 through 27. I didn't want to go through all of those because I'm going to break everything down simultaneously through the text. But when you get a chance, you can go back and read it. That's going to be Joshua, the 6th chapter, verses 1 through 27. And it's just going to break down the whole story of what really took place as they begin to move in and take over Jericho. Now, Jericho was important to the Hebrews. It was the oldest city in Canaan. And what it was a prospering trading center for the entire promised land. The area immediately surrounding Jericho was rich and fertile, and prosperous trade routes led out from all directions. So this is what this was that we're getting into. And so when we begin to understand this, as they got ready to take over Jericho, they became frightened. They said, wait a minute, we get ready, we go into the promised land, but before we get into the promised land, we got to go through Jericho. Wait a minute. I don't know if we can do this. The city is surrounded by walls. I mean, when the people begin to see what's going on, they begin to get frightened. They begin to say, wait a minute, this is impossible. This is something that I don't believe can be done. I don't believe this can be done. The murmurs begin to happen in the group. The murmurs of disbelief, the murmurs of discord begin to come forth, because now they're saying, wait a minute, I don't really know if this can be done. I don't really know if we can actually go in and do this. This seems like a very impossible task. How many of us have ever been in situations in our lives where it seems like no matter where we're at, it seems like the obstacle, the thing that we're dealing with is impossible. It seems like this thing that's in our life, this thing that's in front of us is impossible. It's impossible. If I had to come up with a subtitle for today's teaching, it would be Breaking the Walls of Limitation. I would have to say that, because the only limitation you would ever come into in your life is the limitations in your mind. Oh my God, I wish I could say that again. The only limitations you will ever embrace or ever face in your life are the limitations in your mind. And so we are here now where these people are facing the entrance now of getting into Jericho, and they're saying, Joshua, this is impossible. I don't see how we can do this. I don't see how we can actually do this. This seems so much bigger than us. It seems like this is out of our league. This is out of our lane. This is something that's beyond our scope about what we can do. And so what I love here is that Joshua knew that he had to go in and do this. He knew that this was part of the plan. And what I want to tell you is, when you're going in to possess your promised land, you have to understand this, that you are in control of your destiny. Mm-hmm. You are in control of your destiny. And what happens is, you, by operating in these steps that we have done thus far, he already knew what they were going to come into. He already knew that. And so what happens is this now. If you are able to go in and send your spies out and seize the land and go in and spy out the land, you have a vast opportunity of knowing what's coming. Now, I'll tell you this. It's one thing to see what I'm going to walk into, right? So if I know that I'm going to walk into an abundance of money, if I know that I'm going to walk into an abundance of prosperity, and I can see it, oh man, it's great. I'm joyful, I'm happy. But now check this out. When I get ready to actually walk into it and I get face to face with it, now I'm able to see what those Jericho situations look like, because I was able to see it from a distance, from afar. But now that I'm getting ready to go in and possess it, there are some obstacles there that I can see now. Now that I'm up front, I'm no longer seeing this thing. I'm actually in it, actually embracing it, and actually coming into it now. So it's a different situation now here. What I love that Joshua does here, let's take note. The first thing Joshua does is he becomes quiet. You know, a lot of times when we get fearful and we get upset and we become afraid, we can become very emotional. We can get, loud. We can scream. We can holler. We can do all of those things and get upset. But he became quiet. And then after becoming quiet, he began to pray. Now, I told you, if you didn't get a chance to listen, go back and hear my teaching on the secret of prayer. Whenever you see the word prayer now, it changes your philosophy. It changes your thinking. Because prayer, when it says that Joshua prayed, it's not that he prayed, oh, God, help me. Oh, God, please protect me. Oh, God, please help us to do this impossible task. That's not what he's doing. The Bible says whenever you pray, believe that whatever you're praying for, you have received it, and then after that, you will receive it. So what that means is this. When Joshua became quiet and he began to pray, what he's doing is he's actually convincing himself that, listen, I've already conquered Jericho. I've already conquered the land of Canaan. He's actually convincing himself that this task that he's getting ready to do has already been done. It's almost like a basketball player that's going out for the game. I would have loved to talk to Chris Paul last week as he got ready in 16 years to make it to his first NBA Finals. I would have loved to talk to Chris Paul and say, Chris, listen, you're getting ready to enter to this game. Before you even step foot on the court, I want you to already know that the game is won. I want you to already know that you won this game, that the victory is already yours before you step on court. Because if you can, and that's what we consider praying, because if you can go in and already receive the win and already receive the victory before you step on this basketball court, then and only then will the universe provide and make sure that you win. And that's exactly what happened, because it was Chris Paul that took the Phoenix Suns and beat the Clippers to make it to the finals. So when we look at this, Joshua became quiet. He began to pray, and he began to meditate in order to achieve an uplifted state of mind. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, when you are facing a difficult task in life and you have a group of people with you who are also experiencing that with you, they may not be on the same level of consciousness that you are. And when you start hearing the rumblings of disbelief, the rumblings of faith, of fear, and discord, what you're going to want to do is you're going to need to elevate your level of consciousness. Einstein said it better. Whenever there's a problem, you can never deal with the problem on the same level that the problem has come. But you got to be able to lift your level of consciousness in order to handle that problem. And that's what he's doing here. There's definitely an issue here, right? But what he has to do is he has to come to the place where he became quiet. Then, after becoming quiet, he began to pray. The prayer is to convincing oneself that I've already received that which I'm praying for, right? Then he now meditates, because he has to be able to shift his consciousness to a higher level. He understands that everything that we're going to do has to be done inwardly first before it can be an outward manifestation. And that's what I love about this. You know what? As I was looking at today's teachings, I thought about this. Everything that we've learned thus far, some people would say, oh, man, these were some crazy methods and techniques, also, although they may sound very cool and something that we never heard before. But I don't look at them as that. I look at them as investments. Everything that we've learned thus far has been an investment that will pay off. It will pay off. And so I've told you this before, even going forward from this day, everything you do must be an investment. your time, your energy, your effort, your money. It must be an investment. You must look at everything as an investment. And when you start doing that now, it changes everything, because a lot of things you won't do anymore because it's not benefiting you. It's not going to benefit me because you're looking at it as an investment. You invest in something because it's going to bring benefits, or the benefits of it will come later on. And so I begin to look at that from that perspective. Thus far, from chapter 1 all the way to chapter 5 today, everything we've learned, everything that we've been implementing, everything that we've been practicing and putting into our consciousness and operating on within our written notes and so forth have been investments. So Joshua here, he understands that the people are fearful and that they are in a place where they are allowing the five senses to overtake them spiritually. They're getting unbalanced now because they're becoming so earthly good that they're no heavenly minded. Right? And so what happens here is your five senses will allow fear, discord, discomfort to come into place, because listen to this. What you see, taste, feel, and hear will resonate with you on a physical level. That's why you have to have mind over matter, because you can't allow the physical aspect to overrule the spiritual. The spiritual must always rule the physical. Mind must always be over matter. And so here we see that they are fearful because they're going by what they hear, by what they saw, by what they feel, by what they smell, taste. They all see in the physical aspect of what took place. But I love what Joshua does here. He makes an adjustment. One of the things that I made a promise to myself, no longer will we make excuses, we will make adjustments. In your life, everything that you are encountering, everything that you are dealing with in your life, you signed up for it. Yes. The good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent, you signed up for it. And some people will say, well, what do you mean? I say, because while you were under your parents' parental guidance, you were a victim. But once you became an adult, you became a volunteer. Everything that you are experiencing in life, you have brought it to yourself. And so some will say, well, how is that? Because you only get out of life what you pay for. What are you paying attention to? Right now, we're in a crucial situation in the text because the people of Israel are being fearful. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, that whatever you focus on in secret, you pull in. When we talked about the law of attraction, right? Whatever you harbor secretly, you pull in. We're at the place now where we're getting ready to take over Jericho. You can't allow yourselves to harbor in fear, because you start pulling in things of fear. You start pulling in that, right? If you are operating in fear, you're attracting fear, right? You're attracting fear. You're attracting everything that you are operating in. So in order to shift out of that, Joshua has to make an adjustment, because I can't allow us to operate in this level of being able to magnetize fear. Right now, we're vibrating at a lower level of fear, of discord, right? I can't allow us to operate. So he calls an audible. He calls the play, right? He makes an adjustment. What does he do? He calls for the people to become circumcised, to circumcise themselves mentally and spiritually by circumcising, cutting off fear. Whenever you are getting ready to enter into your Jericho and you're getting ready to enter into your promised land and you're facing that level or that sense of impossibility, the first thing we must do is learn how to become circumcised, to spiritually and mentally be circumcised, to cut off the fear. Fear, false evidence appearing real. I also like to say this about fear. Fear also is facing everything and recovering. FEAR. Yeah. Facing everything and recovering means that fear is nothing more than the shadow. It's not real. It's not real. It's appearing to be real, but it's not real. And so if we circumcise our mental and spiritual selves, we can now find ourselves cutting off that fear. We find ourselves to be able to cut off, and that spiritual act symbolizing the spiritual circumcision will begin to utilize us to cut off that fear. And then we talked about the yes and no powers, right? We begin to use the no powers of the mind. We begin to use those powers of no, those powers that will tell us to cut off fear, that those powers that will tell us to no longer feel fearful, to say no to fear, to say no to anything that comes against us that's in a negative light, anything that comes to scare us, anything that comes to try to throw us off course. We say no to that. We learn how to use the mental powers of no, how to block out fear and block out the inferiority. So this circumcision was perfect. I think that this is something that we need to utilize in our personal lives whenever we're getting ready to manifest and we're getting ready to do something. It's like somebody who's going to manifest a car, and you've been using the wheel of fortune, you've been using your vision board, you've even tapped into the wheel of life, which I'm going to expound upon a little bit today if you haven't been on the call last Wednesday. And we will begin to look at that, and you see the car, you see yourself in the car, you see yourself driving the car, you feel yourself in the brand new car, how it feels on the highway, your hand gripping the steering wheel. You can feel all that, you can visualize it, and that's wonderful, right? You're sending your spies out to spy out the land, to see the car in the physical theater of your mind, right? But now when you get to the car dealership and sit down at the table, the fear comes in now, because you're actually at the place now where you're getting ready to conquer your Jericho. And when they come out with the prices and the numbers and all those different things now, you become fearful. And you say, oh, man, this might be a little impossible for me to do this. I don't know if I can really pull this off. You got to move into a level of circumcision. You got to be able to circumcise, cut off fear, begin to use your no powers of mind. And when we begin to look at that, we will begin to see that it will bring us into a place where we can operate in our total divine being, that the God in us is much greater than anything outside of ourselves. You know, anytime you feel like there's something in your life that you're not getting or that you're lacking, you got to go within to get it. Because anything, I tell people this all the time, anytime you go outside of yourself for anything, the very thing that you're going outside of yourself for, you make that thing a master or power over you. It has power over you. So, you know, it's very seldom, you have to be very careful when you're looking for attention, for love, for respect, for honor, any of those things, when you're looking for appreciation, you know, or anything of that sort. You have to be very careful, because if you reach outside of yourself for it, whatever you get those things from the outside, you attach yourself to it. But that thing now becomes your master. It has power over you. And you never want to be in that position now, because anything that's outside of yourself is temporary. But that which is eternal, is invisible, is eternal in the heavens. One of the things that they also did, Joshua began to do, he began to observe the Passover. And when he began to observe the Passover, this was a time after they circumcised, after they went through the whole circumcision, this was a time for them to have a level of thanksgiving, right? This is where they commemorated the Thanksgiving of them getting out of bondage. This is the time when they begin to look at them leaving bondage, getting into the wilderness, and now getting out of the wilderness, now moving into the promised land. Now, I want to tell you, when you are going through these different stages of manifestation and possessing your promised land, you got to give time and sit back and give thanks. It's something about the thankful gratitude of just being thankful of where you are now. Even now, as you on this call right now, just say, God and me, I am thankful. I am thankful for where I am now in my life. I'm not where I used to be, and I may not be where I want to be, but I'm on my way. I'm a work in progress, but I'm thankful for where I am right now in consciousness, because I could have been in a worse position. My life could have been far worse off than it is. But because of the God in me, I'm thankful for where I am now. And so it is. I'm thankful because taking time out to become thankful, it's great to do that even as you get ready to face the impossibilities, as you get ready to face what you considered something some of us will consider to be impossible, something to be a great endeavor, something to be a great business venture, or what we're trying to manifest. It could be great. And so at that time, as we get ready to enter into that, you want to be thankful. One of the things you want to do is we always want to be thankful, because when you're thankful, that thankful vibration, it manifests and it magnetizes to you the situations and circumstances that are of good rapport, that of good report, and that bring good essence and good rapport into your life. You always want to operate in a level of thankfulness, regardless of what happens, what doesn't happen. One of the things my father always taught me, I don't care what situation you're going through, good, bad, or indifference, always try to find the good in every situation. I tell people all the time, if you've ever been in a relationship that turned out to be bad, it didn't work out, and a lot of people will say, you know what, I'm never going to date again, I'm never going to fall in love again, because of what they thought, because of the bad or the indifference or the wrong that took place. But look at the good out of the situation. Now you're much wiser. You know what to look out for. You have a greater understanding of yourself, of what you're not going to deal with, what you're not going to tolerate. And so we have to learn how to take the good out of everything and how to see the good in everything that happens. And so taking the time out to give thanks and to honor and to really embellish Thanksgiving, I think it's a wonderful thing, and it doesn't have to be an everyday thing, but no matter where you're at on your journey, every now and then you ought to take time to give thanks. Instead of rushing into Jericho, whenever you are getting ready to manifest and you're getting ready to go in and possess your promised land, it doesn't always have to happen speed. It doesn't always have to happen quick, fast. We live in a society now where everything wants everything right away, right? Microwave, they call it the microwave generation. But anything that lasts doesn't come quickly. So I myself had to learn that, because I was a very impatient person. I always wanted everything. I'm a person, even to this day, I really don't like to wait online. Like if I can order it, have it delivered, if I can not have to wait online, that would be the best thing for me. I'm a very impatient person, so I really had to learn patience. If I see long lines, I'll be like, you know what? I'll just get it another day. I'll find another way to. I'm impatient. I want it now. I had to really learn how to be patient. Patience is a virtue that I desire. And I think that whenever you are in a position to where you're going to be really moving and operating in life, we have to get patience. We can't want everything to happen fast. There's a reason why patience is important. And they were getting ready to enter into Jericho, and the people in Jericho were expecting them to come in and rush in. But they said, no. Joshua and his camp, they set up and they got quiet. They got quiet and they began to set up. Understand, this is the second time now that we're talking about this. Joshua is moving in silence. Silence is very powerful. Silence is golden. When you learn how to operate in silence, you can really see the power of things. You don't have to be loud. You don't have to be seen. You don't have to be out in the open. You don't have to close the scene. You don't have to try to be wonderful and try to impress people. But operate in silence. You know, I was watching a movie the other day, and it's a true thing. The American Gangster with Denzel Washington. And in the movie, Denzel makes a statement that's very profound, but it's true. He says the loudest one in the room is the weakest one. And he's right. If you ever see people who are loud, obnoxious, always want to be seen, always want the attention, those are the people that are not very strong, because they feel like there's an insecurity there, that they need to be seen, they need to be heard, they want the attention. That's what stimulates them and makes them feel important and makes them feel like they're somebody. Right? Here we go, people who are reaching outside of themselves for something. But then you look at the people who are quiet, who don't say anything, who are very quiet, observant. Those are the people that you want to look at and begin to see what's going on. There's something about the power of a silence. Not everything needs to be loud. Not everything needs to be big bombs or fireworks. But operate and learn how to move in silence. We see here that Joshua and his people, they were busy, right? They were attending the circumcision, cutting off fear. They observed the Passover, which was working spiritually, giving thanks. And then we also see that how Joshua was praying and meditating, getting guidance for what's getting ready to happen. We begin to see how before you actually do anything, you got to make sure that you're in an uplifted state of mind, an uplifted state of consciousness. And if you're in an uplifted state of consciousness, you begin to understand, listen, I'm getting ready to make this next move. I always tell people this: let your next move be your best move. I'll say that again. Let your next move be your best move. Why? Because you want your next move to be the greatest move you've ever made. But you got to make sure that you are calculating it correctly, that you're not physically making the move, that you're not allowing yourself to go outside of yourself, but you are doing it from inwardly, that you have consciously elevated your mindset. Because when you elevate your mindset, you become clear, you become at a higher level, altitude, and you begin to see things differently. You know, I can see things much differently on the rooftop than I can from the fourth floor window. So that's why going to a high level of consciousness will change your viewpoint. It will change your perspective for what you're getting ready to walk into, because now you can see things at a different level. So always remember, before you actually get ready to encounter, to manifest, to move into your Jericho, to move into your promised land, that you are at an uplifted state of mind. And so they begin to go in and get Jericho. They're moving quietly. They're not making any noise. The people in Jericho are waiting. They're like, listen, I know they're coming. We saw them when they crossed over the Jordan. We saw them. We saw the campfires. We saw that they were heading this way. So they're getting prepared. I always tell people this: everything that you're going after or that you want, it wants you. It's coming after you too. The very thing that you're trying to manifest or that you're trying to pull in is actually trying to come to you. And so we're at a place now where they're getting ready to go into Jericho. They are marching to the gate. But as they go to the gate, they begin to surround the walls. But they don't make any sound. They don't start fighting. There's no word spoken. The people behind the wall of Jericho are saying, wait a minute. They're waiting for noise. They're waiting for them to say something. They're waiting for them to initiate. They're waiting for anything to happen, but nothing happens. They begin to move in silence. They start a silent march. Listen, when you move in silence, you are going to confuse the adversary. You're going to confuse those who are on the outside, those who may be jealous, because you got to understand this. When you start moving into your promised land and you start consciously elevating and moving into your Jericho, you're going to have people around you who are going to be jealous, people who are going to be envious of you. And that's why you got to be silent in how you move, because if you allow people to know what you're doing, they will try to sabotage and come in your way. But if you move in silence, they don't know what you're doing. They don't know what the plan is. They don't know how you're operating. They don't know how you're moving because you're moving in silence. Silence is golden. They begin to march around the wall of Jericho in silence. The next day, they did it again. They began to march in silence. The third day, the fourth day, the fifth day, and the sixth day, they begin to move around the wall in silence. Now, listen to me. Every time they attempted to move around that wall in silence, understand that they were building their level of faith, because the Bible says that faith without works is dead, being yet alone. So what happens here is that although they've been circumcised, they cut off the fear, and now they're operating in faith. You can't have faith without works. So every day that they walked around that wall in silence, they were building their faith. They were adding the work to the faith. They were also building their level of consciousness because they were able to elevate at a stronger level of consciousness. They went from I think I can to I can, right? Because at day one, they probably say, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. But by day 6, it wasn't no more I think I can. It was I can, I will. I can, I will. Because there's something about the routine of doing something over and over again. Whenever you get ready to enter into your Jericho, your promised land, or whatever it is you're trying to encounter, you have to take the time and patience, operate in silence, but go over and make sure that you are consciously ready to do what you're walking into. And it may take you a few days. It may take you a week to constantly coach yourself and get yourself mentally ready for what you're getting ready to walk into. Never let anybody or nobody deter you from the goodness and the promise that the God in you has provided. And so we begin to look here that they walked around the wall of Jericho and they begin to move on the first day, the second day, the third day. It's something about routine now, right? Routine moves. Routine creates habits. Habits create principles, right? But what it does is as you continue to move around, they were moving in circulation. They were on a level of consciousness. Now listen to this. This is deep because not only every day that they continued to walk in silence, what happened was, I can guarantee you, everybody wasn't on the same level mentally. Everybody wasn't on the same level consciously. But as you continue to move in consciousness, everybody began to get like-minded consciousness. Everybody began to meditate together. Everybody began to pray together. And they begin to be on the same page. We get to day 6. But now on day 7, something happened. They marched silently around the walls on the seventh time, and suddenly they got an instruction that said, shout, for the Lord has given you the city. That's coming out of Joshua 6:16. And they spoke the word with a mighty shout. And what happened was the walls began to move back and forth, until it tumbled to the ground and the walls of Jericho began to fall. Now, what I found out that's very interesting here, y'all know I love numbers. I'm the number guy. They walked around the first time, the second time, the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time, the sixth time. This dawned to me, why would the walls fall after the seventh time? The number 7 is an awesome number. The number 7 is a number of spirituality. It's a number of awakened consciousness. The number 7 is the number of understanding. It's the number of completion. It's the number of mysticism. It's the number of inner knowing, inner wisdom, right? The number 7 is also the number of inner strength, endurance. It's the number of peace. It's the number of healing. And so to see them operating at this level was magnificent, that this would happen on the seventh day. Those of you who are listening, ladies and gentlemen, if you are in your position in your life now and you are facing a wall of limitation, whatever that limitation is, whether it's healing, whether it's finances, whether it's career, whether it's business, you must operate in quiet and silence. Operate by walking around that wall, whatever that wall is that you believe that you are encountering, and begin to understand that this wall is going to be removed. It's going to be removed because the only limitations that you have are the limitations in your mind. These people didn't do anything physically to remove and tear down that wall. They walked around the wall in silence, which means that they were consciously already removing the wall. As they walked around that wall, they realized that, wait a minute, I'm much bigger than this wall. This wall is nothing but a figment of my imagination. They realized that, wait a minute, we've been circumcised, right? Fear, facing everything and recovering, right? They remember fear, not allowing false evidence appearing real. So they begin to understand and know that this wall is coming down. They didn't have anything physical. There was no gunshots, no cannons, no bombs. Walking around the wall of Jericho, they began to march around this wall quietly in a silent march, not saying anything, not doing anything, just constantly getting themselves together inwardly. They were working inwardly. Faith without works is dead. And so this is very powerful because we can use this technique in our personal lives. Whatever wall that we are facing, whatever wall that you have in your life, even today, you can start walking around that wall in silence and begin to declare the word of the Lord, the God in you, and begin to tear that wall down so that now you can now enter into. Now, what I love here is that he spoke the word with feeling, with triumph, with thanksgiving, with boldness. He spoke the word. He understood the power of his word. He understood the significance of his word. And that's what I love, is when you begin to understand the significance of your word. Listen, this is one of my favorite scriptures. Isaiah 55:11. It reads here, so shall my word that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it. Listen, it says here, so shall my word go out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void. but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper into the thing whereto I sent it. That means that whenever I speak a word, it has to come back and fulfill that which I spoke it to do. When you are walking around your wall of Jericho, and you get to that seventh day, and you are declared now to speak the word, to shout the word, that word that you have spoken now will go forth, and it will not return unto you void, but it will prosper and do what you have sent it to do. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. And so when you begin to understand and move in that level of consciousness to break down your walls of Jericho and begin to understand now that my walls have begun to fall because I spoke the word, and the word that I spoke can't come back to me void, but it's going to come back and do what I sent it to do. If I send a word of healing, it has to go and heal because I'm sending forth that word of healing. If I'm sending forth the word of prosperity, the word of prosperity has to go and cause prosperity to come because I spoke the word of prosperity. Whatever word I speak, it has to come forth. And we have to learn how to start speaking the word into our own lives and speaking the word into our own situations and how powerful your word is. To understand the power of the word, you begin to understand that I can speak to my situation and change my circumstance and my situation by just speaking the word. Like I used to say all the time, money has ears, and if you call money and speak to money, money will show up. You begin to understand the power of your words. You begin to say, wait a minute, I don't have to be fearful anymore. I don't have to understand the ins and outs of this situation, but I know the outcome that I want. I know the results that I want. And if I just speak the word will begin to come forth and do that which I sent it to do. And so if you're listening to this call and you have a situation and a circumstance that you are dealing with, if you're dealing with a wall of Jericho and you are now at the place where you need to speak the word, just speak the word. And when you speak the word, it has to go forth and do what you called it to do. If you're speaking the word of abundance, it has to bring forth abundance. It can't return void. It has to go forth and speak abundance. And what I love about the power of the word is that the word changes your circumstance. It changes your situation. But guess what? Before you utter the word, you have to consciously think about what you're getting ready to say. And then what happens is, because you are consciously thinking about what you said, that conscious antenna, that conscious receptor of the word that you're getting ready to speak has now given that to the subconscious mind. And so now when you speak the word, you're speaking on the feeling level because you're feeling like, listen, I know, I believe in my heart, and I know without a shadow of a doubt that the word that I'm speaking now is getting ready to go forth and it's getting ready to manifest that which I spoke it to do. And so you have the feeling already that the word that you have spoken is going to do that. So you're operating in your feeling nature, you're operating in the psychological nature, and you're operating in the spiritual nature, and you're sending out the word which is going out into the physical world in the realm. Hear this. That which is invisible is eternal. You can't see the word. When I speak the word, when the people of Jericho spoke that word, the people behind that wall, they couldn't see it. They could hear it. They heard it. And guess what? They begin to see the effects of the power of the word. They begin to hear it. He that has an ear, let him hear. And they begin to hear the word because there's something about the power of the word that begins to move and elevate and begins to tear down. And you can see the ramifications of the power of a word. Words are very powerful, and they can cut and bruise much more deeply than any physical can. The physical cuts can. And so we begin to move and operate in that level, right? So now we're at a place now that after the wall has fallen, they have spoken the word, and now we are at a place now where they're getting ready to go in. Now, this is what I want you to understand. This is important. After the wall broke down, right? Remember now, this is the place that you once thought was impossible. Being honest, this was a place that made you fearful. You were afraid. You were scared. Nobody on this call is perfect. We all get afraid. We all get scared. Sometimes our faith is tested. Sometimes we may fall off the wayside and attach to fear. It happens, right? But as long as we're able to get back up, as long as we're able to shift our consciousness and get in an uplifted level of consciousness of mind, we will be okay. But that happens in life. Everybody, no matter how big, short, fat, tall you are, everybody on this call, we get at a place sometimes in life where we encounter fear, where we get into a limitation of our mind, where we think that something is impossible, right? That this is something that we can't overcome. But what happens here, Joshua begins to curse the place. Listen, that's how powerful he began to understand his word was. He says, wait a minute. If I could speak the word and tear down the wall, I'm going to go ahead now and curse this place, because now I don't want anybody to ever come back and try to rebuild this place again. I don't want to never be a wall ever again. I don't never want it to be anything ever again. So the same thing, when you tear down when you tear down the walls of limitation in your mind, you need to go ahead and put that forward, that nobody can come back and build up a wall of limitation ever again. That nobody will be able to come back and begin to try to build a limitation, to try to limit you or put you in a box. Never again will that thought of limitation ever be able to be built again. And so he begins to put a curse upon the city. He says here, cursed be the man before Jehovah that rises up and buildeth this city. Jericho, Joshua 6:26. And so what he's saying is, he doesn't want anybody to ever come back and rebuild that, because of what it took for them to overcome that. He never wants to experience that again. So that's why he put the curse out. But listen, I want to tell you, words are powerful. And some of you may be in a situation where you feel like all your life you've been living under what people have said about you. You've been still holding on to the things that maybe were said by your parents, maybe were said by your loved ones, things that they said about you that you are still holding on to. And you may feel like somebody put a curse on you. You may feel like somebody spoke a word into your life, and we know that words are powerful. They hurt, they cut deep. And so I want to give you an affirmation to say. Listen, whenever you feel like your life has been a subject, or you feel like a word has been spoken of your life, or somebody try to put a curse on you by speaking a word on you, and you want to remove that, this is what you do. You say this: there is no condemnation in me, for me or around about me. God in me now heals all critical states of mind, and the results of all critical states of mind, I am now free to claim my good and to share my good with others. When you begin to understand that everything in life moves in consciousness, we have to get out of the facade of how to deal with life. Life is a game, and the way you play the game is from the inside. You don't play the game outside, you play the game inside. And if we learn how to operate and play the game from the inside, we'll start winning on the outside. That's the secret of the game of life. You got to play the game inside in order to win outside. A lot of people are playing the game outside, and they're losing on the outside, and they're losing inside. And to be honest with you, if you play the game outside, you're not really playing the game. You're really going to become part of the game. Now, that's another way on another day right there. If you don't learn how to play the game from the inside and you play it on the outside, you're no longer playing the game, but you have become part of the game. I don't want to be a part of the game. I want to play the game. So we have to get to a place where we say here, All negative thoughts, words, and actions are now withdrawn from my life. The results of all negative thoughts, words, and actions placed upon my life by others are now withdrawn. I'm now removing those words, actions, thoughts, negative words, actions, and thoughts that have been placed upon my life are now withdrawn. I'm free to claim my good and to share my good with others. Sometimes you got to learn how to remove the barriers. You got to learn how to remove the chains. You got to learn how to remove the chains, the spiritual chains, the psychological chains, the mental chains. We got to learn how to move them. And once we are able to learn how to move them from the intangible realm, then and only then will we begin to see them from the physical realm. Now, after Joshua cursed the city, they began to burn it, right? They let the city go up in ashes, which is great. The Bible says beauty are for ashes, right? But this is what happens. He began to burn it down because he didn't want any more memory of that ever again. You know, when you go through a difficult thing in your life, and if they look at those ashes are a memorial to let them know we overcame the walls of Jericho. We were able to do that. And also, what fire does is that you begin now to start off fresh. Fire burns away everything. It makes everything brand new, right? To be burned and to now go into ashes. So now that the city begins to burn down, the city of Jericho, they now have the place now where they can move in and begin to now possess the land, right? Now, once the city was burning down, they were able to gather up the silver, the gold, the vessels of brass, and they placed them in Jehovah's treasury, right? Everything they did had a spiritual value, had a prosperous significance, and it will allow you to elevate in your own level of consciousness, being able to find the place that when you find a wall of Jericho in your life and you're able to overcome and break down that wall by marching in silence and then beginning to speak that word to shatter the wall, to break it down. And then as you begin to shatter that wall and break it down, begin to come into a place where you understand and know the power of your words, where you know the power of this technique. Some of you can break your wall of Jericho right now. You don't have to wait 2 hours from now, 2 days from now, 2 weeks from now. You can break your wall of Jericho right now. All you got to do is mentally just move in silence and speak that word and begin to break that wall of Jericho, because you understand the power of your words. Speak it into existence. Call those things that are not as though they are. Yes, call those things that are not as though they were. I don't see the $1 million in my bank account, but I'm going to call those things that are not as though they were. So there is $1 million in my bank account. I'm calling it forth. I'm going to speak it into existence. Why? Because my words have power. And so I'm going to speak healing to the sick, those who are sick. If you need to be healed, speak healing into your own life. And watch how the power of the word of healing will come forth and begin to heal your body as you speak the word of healing into existence. Because guess what? We just read it in Isaiah 55:11. The words that I speak will not come unto me void, but it will go forth and prosper and do that which I sent it to do. We talked about on Wednesday We talked about those of you that want to go back, you can go to the YouTube channel and listen to the playback, and also get a copy of the call notes. I added a third sheet, and it was the will of life. And what the will of life is, it's 10. It's a will that has 10 categories of your life, and we were able to go into each category of our life and see where we are, to give a diagnosis of diagnostics of where we are in our lives and where we want to go. You know, it was helping us to declare and define what our destiny is. Where are we? You know, and so I find that it's very important that we continue to move and operate in this level of consciousness. I got to tell you, this teaching today was magnificent for me, because it allows us to move into a place where we are able to overcome any obstacles, whatever impossibility. When we are able to move from impossible to possible, when we're able to elevate to that level, we're able to move into a place where nothing is impossible to us no more. There's nothing that we can't conquer. There's nothing that we can't accomplish. There's nothing that we can't unfold. But, you know, walking around that wall for 7 days, it did a lot. Number one of the biggest lessons that I got out of that was this: you gotta like what you pay for. They were paying attention to the fact that the wall was coming down. They paid attention to it. You only get out of life what you pay for. What are you paying your attention to? They were paying their attention to the wall. Every day that they walked around that wall, they paid attention to it. Those of you who are dealing with the wall of Jericho in your life, you need to start paying attention to the wall being removed. Don't pay attention to the wall itself, as far as whatever this wall is that you're encountering, whatever you think the problem is, or the impossibility of it, or the large, or how big you feel it is, or the problem is, but focus on the situation being resolved, the situation being removed out of your life, because you only get out of life what you pay for. You got to pay attention to the fact that this wall is coming down. And as you begin to walk around, now listen, they were already speaking inwardly. They were speaking in silence. You can actually talk in silence. You can actually think and speak in silence. You can speak to yourself and talk to yourself silently. So as they were walking around this wall, they were speaking and operating in silence. But how powerful it is when they release that word into the physical realm, that word that had been getting charged for 6 days. It had been culminating and charging and beginning to grow and expand within them. So they released it on the 7th day. And when they released it on that 7th day, the walls began to fall. And they begin to move in and begin to burn the city and get the treasures and everything else that needed to come forth. It shows us also that, I say this all the time, and I'm pretty sure everybody on this call can attest to this. When you start operating and moving in life, you have to be very careful of the people that you have around you. Everybody's not for you. Everybody that you think is your best friend, everybody that you think is going to be on your side, is in your corner, is in your circle. A lot of people are envious. A lot of people are jealous. A lot of people can be with you just to see what they can get, just to see how far you can go so they can hold on to your coattail, right? So you got to be very careful. You got to learn how to operate in silence. You got to learn how to be quiet and move in silence. Because what happens is they won't understand and know why you're moving the way that you're moving. They won't be able to see anything because you're not making any noise. You're moving quietly. You're moving in silence. And so that's one of the things that you always want to look at and be able to resonate with and be able to go into, because there's a power in silence. I tell you, there's a great power in silence. Silence will confuse the adversary. They won't know if you're coming or going. They won't know where you are. They will have no doubt in their mind of where you are. And so I just think that it's something that needs to be held on to. It's a truth that we all need to hold on to. I think that this lesson also shows us that nothing is impossible. That when you understand that mind can always be over matter, that we always have the ability to overcome whatever situation we're in, we can apply this technique to our lives. And I think that this is just a wonderful teaching. I really got a lot out of this today. I hope that you guys did too. You know, just being able to utilize these techniques are phenomenal. You know, I feel like every week we're going to a different level, a different altitude. And where we are now feels really good. It feels I'm at a real good place right now because I'm pretty sure everybody on this call at some point, even now, we may all of us at some point in our lives or even now may be facing our own wall of Jericho. And now we have the keys, we have the truths, we have the precepts, the principles of what to do to overcome and to break down that wall of Jericho. So like I said before, the only limitation that we will ever face in this life is the limitations in our mind. My faith is built upon a rock, and my heart's desire now comes to pass under grace and marvelous ways. I see my good in a golden glow of glory. I see my fields shining white with harvest. God in me is my unfailing and immediate supply of all my good. I now exercise my fearless faith in three ways: by thinking, speaking, and acting. I am unmoved by appearance, therefore appearances move. I stand steadfast, immovable, giving thanks for my seemingly impossible good to come to pass. For I know that the God in me, it is easy to accomplish, and the time is now. God's plan for me are built upon a rock. What was mine in the beginning is mine now, and ever shall be. I know that nothing can defeat me, therefore there is nothing to defeat my life. I wait patiently on the God in me. I trust in the God in me. I fret not myself because of evildoers, for every man is a golden link in the chain of my good. And I now give to me and receive openly. I now give to me and openly receive to me the desires of my heart. I want to thank you guys for tuning into this call. We're now going to get into our circulation time where we circulate those that are sowers, that want to sow a seed into this ministry, and you want to sow a seed. The Bible says he gives seed to the sower. That whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. And on this Sunday, we continue to operate in our millionaire seed, which is the $37 seed. The number 3 represents self-expression, represents moving from outward, out of what would be considered the indwelling God in us, and beginning to move into the physical realm. That which is intangible now becomes tangible, right? The number 7 we just talked about. The number 7 is the number of redefining, redeveloping. It's the number of mysticism. It's the number of spirituality, the number of knowledge, the number of inner wisdom, right? And we put that together, we get the number 1. The number 1 is the number of foundation. It's the number of beginnings, of starting anew, right? Of moving into a new consciousness, laying the foundation. And so the millionaire seed today is a $37 seed. Those of you that will say, I want to move and operate in a millionaire's consciousness, I want to move and I want to sow into that. And what happens is, some people have been telling me since they've been sowing a $37 seed, different ideas, different things have been happening. That people are getting more customers. People are actually expanding their businesses. Things are happening. And so when we operate and move in our millionaire's consciousness, we understand we move and operating in the level of being able to circulate. That when we circulate our funds, when we circulate our seeds, that once we release the funds out of our hands, it comes back to us. Whatever we circulate comes back to us 100-fold return. And so when we begin to understand and move in that, we begin to look at and elevate in that level of consciousness. So we begin on this day, this Sunday. Those of you that are enjoying your 4th of July, the spiritual independence, the spiritual consciousness. I look at Independence Day as a day of becoming consciously independent, that I begin to understand that I am no longer a victim of it, I'm a volunteer, that I move independently because I create and manifest my own destiny. I am the architect of my own world. And so I am a master of my mind. And so when you begin to move in that level of consciousness, yes, we celebrate the conscious level of independence. And so I want to thank all of you for being a part of this. Those of you that are sowing the seeds, you can sow it to Cash App, which is going to be $TOESC. We also have PayPal, which is going to be Issachar Bey at gmail.com. We also have Venmo, which is the @Issachar-Bey. And then we also have Zelle, which is also going to be Issachar Bey at gmail.com. So those of you that want to sow the $37 millionaire seed, you can sow that seed. Some of you may be saying, I want to sow more. I really enjoyed the teaching. I really got a lot out of it. I want to sow more. You can sow whatever it is that you want to sow. Some say, I may not have the $37 seed. Whatever it is that you want to sow, remember that whatever you release, it circulates back to you 100-fold. Put your seed in the ground. God gives seed to the sower. And as you begin to sow, you begin to watch how doors will begin to open up for you. As you begin to sow, you begin to understand and see how things will be, that situation, that circumstance, that will begin to open up to you. Somebody said, when people say, when you release the seed into the ground, and somebody may say, I need more money, so I don't have enough money to do what I need to do, so I'm going to go ahead and release this seed and sow it into the ground. But what happens is, once you release that seed and sow it into the ground, the God in you will begin to start giving you ideas and putting you in situations and circumstances that would allow you to get the funds and get the money that you need. And so it's amazing how things unfold when we put the seed in the ground, when we're not afraid to release that seed, but understand that once we release that seed, it's coming back to us 100-fold. I want to thank all of you for being on this call. Really enjoyed this call. I really got a lot of it. Actually, if anything, this is really for me. It was really hitting home for me on this call. And I really want to thank you guys for continuing to share this on YouTube. Like it, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on all social media platforms. I really want to thank you and let you know that your contributions are appreciated. I want to tell you this one thing before we end. Your destiny is not a matter of chance, but it's a matter of choice. Thank you, and good evening.